Good afternoon. Today I'm joined by Jon Gray, who's Managing Director of DACS Engineering. Good afternoon, Jon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us today. First question, if you could just tell us a little bit about what you do and for how long DACS Engineering have been doing it.
Basically, we are a controls company, an engineering company that does automation in car plants and places like that, but also in canning. We do process control or any electrical control. So, that's primarily what we do. We don't manufacture conveyors or anything like that. All of that is done with mechanical partners. That's basically what we do. And the company was established in 1971 by my father. Back then, it was all relay logic and that type of thing. And I worked for the company as soon as I left school. Well, before I left school, really. I used to work the summer holidays and things like that, as does my older brother. He's our technical director now. So yeah, straight from school, the apprenticeship route, if you like, and then I sort of progressed through the company. I was the head engineer for a number of years, and then I was made technical director in 2008, thereabouts.
So yeah, fantastic. 50 plus years of a family business.
Yeah.
Incredible achievement. I'm sure within that time there's been ups and downs that we'll hear about.
Yeah, I'll say during my younger years, I spent a lot of time in Dagenham in Ford Motor Company. I learned a lot down there. I also learned how expensive it was down there. Especially on an apprentice's wage. And yeah, there's been a lot of highs and lows. The company's actually done work all over the world, from Russia, Dubai, America, but now mainly it's sort of UK based.
Who's the who's a person who you'd spring to your mind when you think of success in business? Is there anyone who comes to mind, Jon?
I wouldn't say there's like particular people that jump out at me, but you certainly see. I've seen it sort of like some of my sort of customers, the directors of those businesses. They're quite astute people, too astute sometimes. So I sort of like look to them, but I'm myself. I'm a very reserved and cautious person.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And we've obviously come out the pandemic. It seems a long time ago now, but what sort of challenges did the business face over the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, to be honest, with all the remote working and everything like that, we have certain accreditations that we have to have for like our main customers, the likes of Jaguar Land Rover and places like that, where you had to have a business sort of recovery plan and all sorts of things in place. So we actually, prior to COVID, we discovered we could actually work remotely and operate the business. Obviously, sort of our main sort of accounting package, a system called Exchequer, we all had to access that. And other than buying a couple of laptops, the minute, people were told to work from home and everything else, we sort of just carried on. We were doing a lot of work at the time, sort of for Amazon and places like that, which obviously, we all know how quick they've grown and things. So, we got a lot of business sort of doing that because automotive went sort of dormant and everything that sort of took off. So, yeah, we actually carried on working right the way through. The biggest headache was obviously having people traveling all the time. There was no hotels to stay in and that type of stuff.
Yeah. So how did you go around that then?
The furthest job we were doing at the time was a place called Wakefield.
Yeah.
We were doing a canning plant up there, which is classed as food and beverage. So, we had people travelling from North Wales to there and from Liverpool to there every day.
Wow. Okay, very good. And obviously you've been MD now for a number of years. What would you say is your biggest learning as a business owner and as the managing director of the business?
I would say having an engineering background, sort of the biggest sort of lesson I had to learn very quickly was the financial side of the business, and basically all the controls and constraints that come with that. So I had to sort of like leave the engineering sort of side of it to one side and concentrate on actually turning the business around and making the business sort of leaner and profitable.
And looking ahead now from that stable position that you've created and that thriving position, what's your aspirations for the next 5 years?
I want to see the company grow. I want to see the engineering side of the business grow, because that's my main sort of interest. I mean, we have a manufacturing facility and we do service installations and various sorts of things, but we are a technical company, and half of the key people within the business have come up through the business through like the apprenticeship route. So to me, that's quite important, and I want to sort of build the business up. I obviously want to look at a retirement sort of plan for myself, and then sort of longer term, you know, I'd like to hand the reins over to my son, who also works for the business.
Oh, nice. Okay, so there's a bit of a succession plan there.
Yeah.
And obviously you've mentioned about apprenticeships and stuff. How are you finding the current employment situation in the region?
I think there's a lot more restrictions now with the likes of taking on young apprentices, what they can physically actually do, the working hours they can actually do, and things like that. So, you know, we see that as a challenge, and you also see it in the wider industry when you sort of like go into, I don't know, even places like Airbus and things like that. That apprenticeship model has changed over the years. I'm not too sure whether it's for the better in a lot of aspects, but getting people that can actually physically want to do the work is, you know, you find that quite surprising. I remember sort of my sister's son, you know, through his schools in early sort of years, all he ever wanted to do was like work on computers.
Yeah.
And I said, well, operating the till technically is a computer. I said, you know, you need to be a bit broader than that. So we find now that when we get people in, they're very good on the buttons, but practically doing stuff with their hands, you know, that takes a bit of molding.
But you are finding the apprentices and employees currently, or is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
We took a bit of a sort of a slowdown during COVID. In fact, we didn't take any on during COVID and things like that because of the situation. So yeah, we're trying to sort of build that up at the moment. And Dave Pauling, my sort of operations manager, he's looking at the practical aspects of an apprenticeship, and we're even looking at putting some space aside at our manufacturing facility to sort of bring them on.
I remember being involved in a panel for the D-side sort of North Wales area for a while, where we were talking about the lack of apprentices or engineering apprentices specifically coming through the colleges at that time. That was probably 4 or 5 years ago. And round the table were Toyota, Airbus. We're all having the same sort of issues at that time.
Yeah. I remember a similar conversation with my father, because he said at the time, he said, you know, everything's geared around this area for Airbus or, you know, the likes of a Toyota, but you know, you only have to go a little bit further afield when you've got Jaguar Land Rover, Ford's Getrag, JCB. You know, there is a whole host of industries and different sectors around here.
Yeah, I understand. So challenging, but you're looking hard enough. You find the right people, and it, you know, I think it's really positive that you're clearly looking to recruit apprentices. It's a nice story.
You know, we find that sort of the best people within the business are the people that have been brought up through the business.
Yeah, nice. And I suppose adding to that a little bit, what as an employer and employer of a number of people, I know that. What have your biggest learnings been as an employer?
Because I've known most of the people, you know, all my working life, you know, some of them I've looked up to as like my mentors, and others I've tried to sort of mentor them along, sort of thing. So that sort of side of it, you know, is good. And even when the business was in sort of harder times and things like that, one of my biggest worries was the welfare of all the employees, you know, and what could potentially happen to them and things like that. You know, they've all got mortgages, you know, lots of people have got family and stuff like that. So it's quite a responsibility, or I feel it's quite a responsibility.
Very good. And it's probably one of my favourite questions, actually, is when we always look back. Well, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self, Jon?
To basically keep my eye on the ball a lot more. When you see things happen, you have to react to them. You can't sort of like brush it under the carpet or say that's not my responsibility. When longer term, it all becomes your responsibility.
So respond to problems when they happen rather than let them continue and get bigger.
Yeah, I always say to people, be proactive, don't be reactive.
Okay, very good. Jon, thank you very much for your time today. That was incredibly enlightening, and thanks for lovely stuff on people and apprentices. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you very much.